It's been another week of action-packed Penn State sports. From hockey to wrestling to basketball, we'll bring you up to date on the madness of athletics in State College. Welcome back to this edition of the Dear Old State Update, brought to you by Penn State Sports Night. I'm Cailey Thalman alongside Amanda Vogt. Our beat reporters have been out and about covering milestone moments from the highest attendance in Pegula Ice Arena history to McKenna Marisa joining the 2,000-point club. To top it off, Penn State Wrestling has remained undefeated 7 matches into the season. Amanda, it's safe to say we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. It was certainly a busy weekend, and we'll kick things right off at Pegula Ice Arena, where there was plenty of action with both Penn State teams returning to the ice. Happy Valley temperatures have been frigid, but the Roar Zone brought the heat in the wear-right game against Ohio State. A crowd of 6,578 fans packed the Peg to witness the Nittany Lions' first ever Buckeye sweep. Our beat reporters Anthony Desher and Licastro are here to break down what they've seen from this team.
Thanks, guys. The Penn State men's hockey team has had an up and down season thus far, but the one thing that has stayed consistent is star freshman Aidan Fink. I had the chance to cover the team's most recent series against the Ohio State Buckeyes, and Fink certainly put on a spectacle. Aidan Fink, the freshman from Calgary, Alberta, is glad to call Happy Valley home. Originally a Wisconsin Badger, Fink swapped his commitment to Penn State in April 2023. After a whirlwind of an offseason that saw him get drafted in the 7th round by the Nashville Predators, he has had no problem adjusting to a new league. The Big Ten Conference is home to some of the top talent in the nation, producing players that have gone on to succeed at the NHL level. Among them, Fink leads all freshmen in scoring. He also set a Penn State program record for most power play goals in a single season with 8. His play has gained him some recognition from the Hobey Baker Committee, the award given to the nation's top player at the end of the season. On Friday, Aidan Fink was nominated for the Hobey Baker Award. This weekend, he put on a show for the fans, tallying 4 points, including 3 goals and 1 assist, and a crucial sweep over the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, his point total is up to 32, putting him in the top echelon of all NCAA skaters. The one they call Finker has won over the hearts of fans and his team. This is what head coach Guy Gadowski had to say about the young star.
Very well deserved. His play has been not only excellent and productive, it's been inspiring. The way he plays is so fun to watch and inspiring. But, if you look at tonight, I think, people are going to look at his goals and say, oh, he had a really good game. But the coaches, I tell you what, he had 2 of the best back checks that we had all night. And he does it when he's tired, he does it when he's fresh, he does it when he's third high, he does it when puck's turned over. Like he plays a lot more, he plays a very aggressive game.
As the season gets later, the stakes are only getting higher. But Fink has the chance to put the cherry on top of a great year.
Well, it was obviously an all-around exciting weekend for the Nittany Lions, but Anthony, what did you like most about this Ohio State series?
Well, there was a lot of things to like. I'm going to start with the special teams first. They go 5 for 10 on the power play, and that's what you really need in these tight conference games where you're not going to let up too many goals. You get 5 out of 10, 50% on a power play is really, really good. And the other thing, all season long, Guy Gadowski has been asking for good goaltending, and Liam Soulier gave the team just that. He came up big when he had to. He kept the team in the game and allowed them to get the couple wins that they got over the weekend. And moving forward with that, the depth. Guy Gadowski, during his media sessions every week, says there really hasn't been that identity line that Penn State normally has year after year after year. You got a lot of depth scoring. If you can keep those guys scoring throughout each of those top, 4 lines on the offense, you'll run into a trio that can find that identity that Penn State's really been looking for. And of course, as we just saw, Aidan Fink has been phenomenal thus far. I mean, this kid has been putting on a show week after week, and he really doesn't seem like he's slowing down anytime soon. He's in the upper echelon of all these players in the NCAA. It's really exciting to watch him, and with the season going down the line, it's going to be even more special to see his talent.
Well, I mean, I have to agree with you about Aidan Fink. How could I not? He's been such a standout player, and what a weekend for Liam Soulier. But in terms of their upcoming opponents, Penn State has some big weekends ahead. What do you think we can expect to see from the Nittany Lions for the remainder of their regular season?
Well, it's not going to get any easier, that's for sure. But they do have a bye week coming up towards them right now. I mean, It's going to give them time to get rest and get healed up because they're going to have the Minnesota Golden Gophers 2 weeks from now, and they are certainly not a team that you want to take lightly. Sure, they're not that top 3, top 5 team that they normally are year after year, but they have the talent like Oliver Moore and Jimmy Snuggerud to really explode in an instant's notice. So you have to make sure you can lock in because these next couple weeks with Michigan right after them and Wisconsin, Ohio State, those aren't easy. I mean, this is the time of year where teams are really going to try to push to solidify themselves in the Big Ten conference standings to host that home ice advantage and what Penn State needs to do because it is really, really close in these standings. If they can keep this, hot streak going that they got after sweeping Ohio State, it'll allow them to maybe move up a couple spots in the Big Ten and, host a home game at Pegula because we've seen with the Wear-White game, that crowd was electric. And if they can get a playoff game in that atmosphere, good luck if you're the other team. I mean, just seeing what that crowd was able to do and the impact they had. I mean, my ears are still ringing because of how loud that place was. I mean, it's just fantastic. And if they can sneak into the NCAA tournament with all this momentum that they've collected, I mean, the Big Ten tournament, they could also probably sneak into the NCAA tournament as well because we saw what they could do last year. They came just so close to the Frozen Four. They still have that talent to do so, especially with these younger players.
Well, you know what? I love your optimism. This team is going to finish off their regular season with some really challenging matchups, but it would be great to see them have a breakthrough here in the final stretch. And before we get off the ice, the Penn State women's hockey team also had a very successful weekend here at home. Hannah Valcourt, Josh Bartosik, and Adrianna Gallucci are here to give you the full report. Guys?
Women's hockey is coming off a stellar hot streak after sweeping Lindenwood this weekend. Caitlin Roberts and Chessa Janicki combined for half the goals scored in Friday's matchup with a crushing 10-1 win. So guys, what stood out to you the most with this second half of the season?
Yeah, I mean, really for me personally, it's been Caitlin Roberts. This past weekend, like you mentioned already, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points on the weekend. Friday's contest was her first multi-goal performance of her career, and she's really blossomed not just as a sophomore, but specifically on that top line with Tessa Janicki and Stella Retrum. I mean, that line was fantastic. They had 11 points in Game 1, and they continued it in Game 2. And throughout the rest of the season, they should be the top 3 to watch out for on Penn State.
Yeah, that top line is definitely Penn State's identity line, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about Tessa Janicki. This week, she picked up her 4th CHA Forward of the Week nomination. I mean, crazy. She's 5th in the nation with points with 43, and she had 8 of those points in the prior series against Lindenwood last weekend. She is just one of those players that has really come in as a freshman, got all these CHA nominations, Rookie of the Year as well, and she's going to continue to be a standout for Penn State, not only in the back half of the season, but going forward within her collegiate career.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think that she's going to do stellar things the rest of the season. So now, going on, there's been multiple injuries that have been happening with the team, one with the starting goalkeeper. What do you think? How are they going to move on, especially with the CHA standings? How are they going to move on from that?
Yeah, I mean, since we talked about Roberts and Janicki, we might as well talk about Stella Retrum as well. It's all about relying on the young guns. Retrum, the freshman, she's up there with Janicki. She's got 21 points on the season for Penn State, so very talented. But also Katie Disa, the sophomore goaltender who you mentioned, Josie Bothan going to be out for the remainder of the season. So Disa going to take her place and step in. She has stepped up. In the 3 starts that she's had against Syracuse and the 2 against Lindenwood, she's had wins in all of those games. So just continuing to play stalwart in front of that net, she's going to do a great job.
Yeah, she's only given up 2 goals combined in those 3 games. She's been really phenomenal. And the main thing with that is that the defense, the team in front of her, is also playing very well. They're playing a lot better in front of her than they did in front of Josie. Part of the reason maybe she went down with injury. But I'm going to talk again. I'm going to build off of the young gal stepping up, that next woman up mentality. Specifically this past weekend, where I talked about Caitlin Roberts, but someone a bit under the radar, Maddie Christian. She had back-to-back games with a goal. She's been really picking up her pace. She hadn't had a point since November 3rd against Lindenwood, which was way back when. And then she got 2 goals this past weekend against the same Lions team. Maybe can get some sparks for her. Maybe it's that monkey off the bat kind of mentality. But with Julie Goff out until probably the last few games of the season, according to head coach Jeff Campersall, you want to see someone like Maddie Christian really pick up the pace.
Yeah, I agree. So they have a big matchup this weekend against Mercyhurst. What do they need to go into this matchup? The last series, they tied 1-1. What do they need to sweep out another series?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a Mercyhurst Lakers team that realistically has Penn State's number. They're 25, 15, and 9 all-time against the Nittany Lions, and they split earlier, like you said, and really, realistically, what it was in that series was the special teams. In Game 1, Mercyhurst had 8 power play opportunities. They scored on 2 of them. Penn State did not score on any of theirs. It was a flip script in Game 2. Penn State scored on 2 of their 4 power plays. Mercyhurst did not score on any of theirs. So special teams are huge. The Nittany Lions are the 3rd most penalized team in the nation still. And if they can keep out of the box, they can keep that lead in the CHA standings, because this series right now will probably determine who hosts the CHA tournament in a few weeks.
Yeah, I think you summed that up really well, Josh. Penn State just needs to be consistent. The CHA, highly competitive conference. Penn State at the top of that conference, welcoming Mercyhurst into Pegula Ice Arena, and they're building off of the momentum against that Lindenwood series. I mean, a 10-1 final, insane for the Nittany Lions. They need to keep relying on those players like Tessa Janicki, Caitlin Roberts, having Katie Disa and net, Stella Retrums, also some other players like Maddie Christian, Brianna Brooks, Lindy Lobdell as well, who's just been so great on defense. You need to continue to be consistent. You need to play at the boards, and most importantly, you need to stay out of the box.
Yeah, I totally agree. It'll be interesting to see how they match up this weekend. But now let's take a look at this past weekend's matchup against Lindenwood.
Number 14 Penn State dominated Lindenwood in its weekend sweep. The Nittany Lions started off the series strong with a 10-1 win. Sophomore Katie Disa stepped up as Penn State's starting goaltender after Josie Bothan was injured and is now out for the remainder of the season. Disa made 40 saves over the weekend in her first back-to-back starts. She also had a 5-0 shutout against number 21 ranked Syracuse in her previous game. After Tessa Janicki and Caitlin Roberts were the primary goal scorers Friday afternoon, Penn State had a much more dispersed effort with 4 different goal scorers to beat Lindenwood 6-1. Penn State capitalized on the power plays this weekend, scoring 5 goals from them in the series. This was a must-win game for the Nittany Lions in order to stay in the CHA title contention. They will face Mercyhurst next and have a 2-point lead on the Lakers for first place. For Penn State Sports Night, I'm Dimitra Gerguchis.
Penn State takes on Mercyhurst this weekend and hopes to keep their winning ways. That's all for now. Back to Cailey and Amanda at the desk.
Thanks, Hannah. With the final weeks and month of the season coming to a close for both these teams, it'll be interesting to see how they end up in the standings and if this past weekend will provide them enough momentum to keep it going in their next series.
Yeah, Amanda, I think men's hockey really needed a bit of a spark, and they absolutely found that in the sweep against Ohio State. And women's hockey split a series against Syracuse, which they probably should have won, so it was good that they came back so strong following that against Lindenwood. Now, like I mentioned earlier, arguably the most dominant team in State College right now is Penn State Wrestling, who has yet to drop more than 10 points in a match all season. Let's head over to beat reporters Rob Cardini, Chris Machado, and Declan Stablow to hear more about what has made this team so successful as of late.
The Nittany Lions have absolutely dominated their opponents on the mats this year, and now over halfway through the season, they have still yet to lose a match with a 7-0 record. Penn State has 2 shutout wins during this run, and their closest margin of victory was 18 points versus 11th-ranked Michigan. Their last home match was 2 weeks ago against the Indiana Hoosiers, and since then, they've had 3 road matchups against Michigan, Michigan State, and most recently in Maryland. Chris, I'll start with you. What have you been most impressed with to start the season?
Other than the entire roster and absolute dominance from this team?
Yes.
It's the new guys that have come in. I mean, you have Braden Davis at 125, Tyler Kasak at 149, and of course Messenbrink at 165. All of these guys, freshmen. That's absolutely insane. And they're on the number 1 team in the country, and they're keeping this well-oiled machine just moving and moving. You know, with Braden Davis, at 125, last season it was a little hard for the Nittany Lions to have success at that weight class with Gary Steen and Marco Vespa. But now, Davis, absolute success his last 4, a major decision in Indiana here at Rec Hall. And of course, then 2 decisions at Michigan, Michigan State, his home state. And then, just last night or last afternoon at Maryland getting a tech fall. He's been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, now you have Tyler Kasak at 149, I just mentioned. He's now taken the majority of the matches with Shane Van Ness being out on the year, and he's looked absolutely phenomenal. Haven't seen him since in Indiana, but he did get a tech fall in that one, and now just taking some rest. And then, of course, now, what's there not to say about Messenbrink? His last 3, major decision, and then a fall in the first period, 50 seconds in at Maryland yesterday. Absolutely phenomenal. These guys, I don't see them slowing down at any point soon, and I don't see this team really being defeated. I don't know who can take them down. It's just looking absolutely crazy for the Nittany Lions.
Chris, I'm absolutely going to have to agree with you there about those young studs. Having that young energy on the roster certainly does a lot for the locker room. And Braden Davis, there's a reason they sacrificed his redshirt status. He's top 5 in that 125 weight class. Way too good to be leaving on the bench. But there's one thing that young core can't necessarily provide, And that's leadership, which you get from all the seniors on this roster who they don't just have experience. They have championship experience between Bo Bartlett, Greg Kirkfleet, and of course Carter Starochi and Aaron Brooks, who are each defending not one, not two, but 3 consecutive national titles at 174 and 184 respectively. But Aaron Brooks, 184 must have been a little bit too easy for him because he bumped up this year to 197, and the obvious question, would he be as dominant? The clear answer has been yes. And Maryland was his toughest test, going up against 5th-ranked Jackson Smith in that weight class, and he won by major decision. But the biggest and most impressive win of the weekend for the Nittany Lions, I think, had to have been Greg Kirkfleet, who got a pin in less than a minute, 55 seconds, his first pin of the season, and the stars were out in College Park. Carter Starochi also recorded a pin, his 3rd of the year, but the more significant milestone, that win marked Carter Starochi's 60th consecutive dual victory. His loss dates back to the Big Ten championship his freshman year against Iowa's Michael Kemmerer, who he went on to beat in the national championship later that same year. And the last name I'm going to talk about, but certainly not least, at 141, Bo Bartlett, who won against 17th-ranked Cal Miller at Maryland. And he's been playing like a man possessed, leading the team in pins with 4. And, you know, he lost to the eventual championship at Nationals last year, and he looks like he's wrestling to avenge that loss this year.
Yeah, not to mention Carter Starochi getting his 60th consecutive victory yesterday at Maryland. Absolutely awesome.
How many other guys have even done that?
Yeah, no.
Chris, I want to go back to a guy that you brought up, redshirt freshman Mitchell Messenbrink, who, like you said, had a victory on Sunday, got his record to 14-0, a pin in just 50 seconds. This kid has been an absolute stud on the mat. Coming into the year, there was kind of a question of who was going to be that guy at the 165 weight class. Many people thought it was going to be Alex Facundo, the sophomore, but he decided to take an Olympic red shirt and not compete this year. So now Messenbrink, who was a 3-time high school state championship in the state of Wisconsin, he gets to fill that role in this lineup, and he's absolutely dominated that. And once again, the Nittany Lions find themselves a great wrestler who they're going to need with their big matchup coming up on Friday night versus 7th-ranked Ohio State. I'm absolutely pumped for that matchup. And I think if you're the Nittany Lions, you just have to keep doing what you know and stick with it. Coach Anderson talked early, right before the season started in his first press conference about, hey, we have to drown out the noise. This team has a lot of expectations year in, year out with how good they are. And I think that if the Nittany Lions are able to, drown out the noise, like I said, stay focused, they'll probably be looking at another victory on Friday night. Ladies, back to you.
Thanks, guys. I mean, Amanda, this team has been so special to watch, as Penn State Wrestling always seems to be. They are absolutely killing it this season, and they've got some huge matches coming up heading into the postseason, so I'm so excited to see how they do.
And one of those matches in a couple weeks is that BJC duel against Rutgers, and even though it's a Monday night, expect a large crowd because they always bring high numbers into the BJC. Until then, there's plenty of hoops action, and the Lady Lions have indubitably flipped the script after finishing last season under 500. Penn State is currently riding a 5-game win streak with 2 matchups slated for this week. Nico Rodriguez and Joey David have been courtside all season covering Carolyn Keeger and her Lady Lions that are coming off another record-breaking performance.
Thanks, Cailey and Amanda. The Lady Lions are 15-5 and the 4th best team in the Big Ten following Sunday's big win against Maryland. The Blue and White dropped 112 points while netting their first win against the Terps since 2003. The win was also their 6th conference win and 11th home win. The explosive offense is nothing new for the squad, however. They have consistently been one of the best offenses in the country. After the win, they sit at 5th in scoring offense. The Lions have scored 1,752 total points and average 87.6 through 20 games. This is the best team Coach Keeger has had since her arrival in 2019, with their toughest stretch yet to come. So, Joey, me and you have been on the floor for every single game so far. So what are your thoughts on the season so far?
It's been a great season for the Lady Lions, and this has been exactly what Coach Keeger's wanted. She's had this vision for years now of building this team. She worked through the transfer portal really well, and she's finally gotten her group of players, and she even said it in her most recent press conference. She said that she loved this year's schedule because it really put the team through some early trials and tribulations, but it also showed them that they can play really well. They had very close losses to ranked teams like Ohio State and USC, and then they did get beat pretty bad by really good teams like West Virginia and Indiana. But they're still playing really good basketball, and they have really solid wins. So it's a great thing to see, and their strength of the team has always just been working together, playing through their depth and using their athleticism. This team is not the biggest, but they're freakishly athletic and they know how to play together in a way that I don't see on many other Penn State teams.
Yeah, I agree. So there is a lot of basketball left. So what are your thoughts on the stretch down the road?
It's a huge stretch, and it's going to hit them very quickly. They have big games against Michigan. They have to see Caitlin Clark against Iowa. But this team has been getting healthier. They got McKenna Marisa back. They got Ashley Owusu back. Now even Kylie Lavelle's back. So having all these players now to use their depth and really work together on this strong team that they have, they're going to be able to do their bread and butter again. Last game against Maryland, they shot over 50% from the field, which is always good, but they also shot over 50% from three, which is insane. So having that and being able to keep on this hot streak is exactly what they need, and I really believe that this team is poised for a Big Ten run and even a national championship run.
So, Joe, they have a lot of tough games left, as we both said, so it's going to be exciting being there watching to see how they compete and how they go into March. But that's it, so back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, guys. And seeing Shea Chesky's development from year 1 to year 2 has been really special, and how many records that she's set to break and kind of tie this season has been really awesome to see under the veteran leadership of McKenna Marisa, and how that relationship has flourished on and off the court. It's going to be really exciting to see how they go down the stretch.
Absolutely, Amanda. And the Lady Lions have really hit their stride as of late, which could not come at more perfect timing, especially with Ashley Owusu fitting right into the lineup as she has. There's so much more excitement to come in Happy Valley as winter sports start to set their sights on the postseason and spring sports leap into action. For now, let's take a look at some top plays.
Pegula was rocking as freshman Aidan Fink hammered a puck home off a feed from Matt DeMarsico to notch his 3rd goal of the weekend in Penn State's 2nd win over Ohio State in the annual Wear White game.
Here comes the Lady Lions from their dominant win against the Terrapins. Great ball movement here as Shea Chesky finds Jayla Oden, who works toward the paint before dishing it back to Chesky at the top of the arc, who hammers it home.
Michael Valenzi slammed down a kill, helping men's volleyball take down the then-ranked #1 Ohio State Buckeyes for the 2nd time this week in a 5-set thriller.
And now, a look back to the storm at the Bryce Jordan Center after Penn State upset the then-ranked #11 Wisconsin Badgers 87-83. That brings us to the end of this edition of the Dear Old State Update, brought to you by Penn State Sports Night. For Cailey, Thalman, and the rest of our beat reporting crew, I'm Amanda Vogt. Have a great night.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night.
For more content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, and follow our socials down below.
And as always, we are
Penn State Sports Night.